I'm Ian Lauer, and with us today is Tad the Diet Coach. Welcome.
Welcome, thank you.
If you've watched other episodes, you know that Tad's been with us for quite a while, and we're going to bring you a great topic today, and you're going to learn a lot here in the Diner. On this episode of the Diner, we want to talk about metabolic damage. Now, there is some debate as to whether it even exists. Some people may think that it's more workout oriented. You'll hear people talk about, oh, if you do steady state cardio, you're screwing yourself and you're going to have metabolic damage. I'm not a big believer in that so much, as I can see where the diet could definitely cause some sort of metabolic damage, as it were. But I wanted to ask you, as our resident diet expert, what your thoughts are on metabolic damage.
I definitely think that metabolic damage exists. And in my way of thinking, metabolic damage really exists when your metabolism, the way you process nutrients, is malfunctioning in some way to its normal, as opposed to its normal state. And when it comes to the reasons for some of these things, it has a lot to do with. There is a component that has to do with exercise, but it's a fairly small. In my opinion, it's a very small component. Although it's a significant one, because anytime you overstress the body for long periods of time, like you do on a contest diet, it can definitely have ramifications in your metabolism. But more importantly, it's really all the denial. When you're feeding your body less than what it needs on a regular basis and stressing it out with lots of stimulants and lots of exercise, cardio, and workouts and things like that, your body is going to try to adapt in ways to get all of this work done, and it can malfunction a little bit. And it's just trying to create homeostasis. It's just trying to create a scenario internally that's going to keep weight on you, keep you from dying, basically.
Well, it's interesting you say that. I hadn't thought of it that way before, but it sounds like you're saying the metabolic damage. I don't know why I keep doing quote fingers. The metabolic. I don't know what to do with my hands. The metabolic damage is basically your body's response to say, hey, jackass, you're doing too much work and not feeding it enough to where it's going to try to conserve calories. And we're calling it damage, where it's our body's system or repairing, or it's its own way to try to conserve energy,
right, so
that it can continue to work under the stresses that you're doing, provide the stresses you're putting your body under
exactly,
with the amount of calories you're giving it.
Well, exactly. It's a way that your body tries to cope with the extra stress, exercise, and the deprivation of diet of calories. And it has ramifications. You can't ask so much of your body for such a long period of time without there being some ramifications. And so, of course, there's a recovery period with it as well. You have to account for that in any kind of diet. But metabolic damage is one of those things that's kind of really highly misunderstood. I think anybody who has a system that is difficult to work with, they say, oh, I got metabolic damage, when this isn't necessarily true. But I firmly believe that there's definitely, and a lot of metabolic damage has to do with insulin resistance and the resistance of insulin to your tissues, and that has to do with either over-consuming carbs or under-consuming them, and there's a lot of different variables that go in that are involved in this. But there's also a component of where you have adrenal fatigue, and this is the big one that I think that hits a lot of people, where throughout a contest prep or a long dieting phase, they'll take lots of stimulants and they overstress their adrenal glands, they overstress their body systems, and when their bodies are really, really worn out and worn down, they're forcing it to release energy, forcing it to do things that under normal circumstances your body just wouldn't be able to do at that level, at that energy level. And so the ramifications are that the system can break down a little bit. It could become inefficient and cause you big problems. Your body's going to start to hoard fat and start to conserve, and it'll be very difficult to make progress. There's cortisol levels rise, all sorts of things, and so people get the classic symptoms like water retention, inability to lose body fat, fatigue, these kinds of things, and nothing seems to help. So it's a real phenomenon. It definitely has its impact in the industry, but it also, I think a few basic things can help people work their way through this. And some of them is, one, plan your diets long enough in advance. Get really good help when you're doing this. Have somebody who can really observe you and who understands some of these things. And make sure and then of course when you're don't overdo the stimulants. I see so many kids these days growing up on Rock Stars and Red Bulls and Monster drinks, and there's so much caffeine in those. There's really way too much. And this stresses the system. You can't do this for years and years and years and expect your system to perform optimally all the time. Definitely, if you take some of these things into consideration, you can prevent some of it. Obviously, when you're preparing for contest prep and these kinds of things, some degree of metabolic evolution is going to happen. So you have to account for that. But you don't have to. I've known people that have really suppressed their system to the point where it takes them 6 to 9 months, sometimes a little longer, to recover from it. And that's really unnecessary if you take the right precautions.
All right, a great bit of advice there. Tad, thanks for joining us here at the Diner.
Thanks for having me.
And to you at home, thanks for watching, and make sure you click back soon for more great episodes.